Alright, welcome back. It's been a little over a week since I last streamed. So, I obviously I've got some stuff to talk about. I'm not sure if I want to do it here or not in the main menu. I kind of like having the music, going on while I talk. But, I'm gonna hop in here onto the stage. It's been, a little bit, obviously. I want to play some music while we wait. I have actually been listening to some Lena Raine during one of my drawing playlists. I've been busy just trying to rethink my life and trying to figure things out here. Because I pretty much like hit a wall and I got extremely burned out. And I just needed to take a break from streaming to take that time to focus on other things and rethink things. What the heck is this? Resin clump? Where are the, where's the stuff? I have no idea. Items? Any more Lena Raine? Hyper Potion? Is that a new one? I haven't listened to that one. Pig Step. Is there other... I wish there were actually other songs that you can play. Oh, I forgot she made that one too. Boop, boop. No fucking way. I haven't watched the movie, but I know where that's from. Alright, I'm getting distracted. I can't believe they actually added that in the game. Fucking hate the inventory system. I don't even know. I guess I'll just get rid of these duplicates. So, yeah, I had to take some time off. I got pretty burned out. I'm trying to rethink things here and come up with a new approach. Oh, by the way, hold on. I got a few more followers. Hold on. I don't know if I thanked you Galaxy VXC for following, but thank you for following. Galaxy VXC, Seawolf107, Evil Vulture, Ash Scarlet, and Krista Tyler. Thank you guys for the follow, I really appreciate that. We are 2 more away from my yearly goal. My follower goal that I made in January 1st. 45 followers. Is that too loud for you guys? I'm not sure. For me it is. I can turn the game volume down a little bit. Either way, welcome back. So here's what's been going on. There's nothing major. There's no events. Obviously, my parents are back from vacation now. And I just needed some time to myself to rethink things, because I'm really struggling to break out of this rut. I'm not sure what to do anymore, and I am, I'm burning my fumes and just constantly burned out, and I still am. It's not really going away. So in that remark, nothing's really changed. So, I had to take some time off and rethink things. I've been reading that book again, The Millionaire Fast Lane, just for financial education. And I'm just, just trying to really rethink things and trying to grind harder. Even though I am always burned out, I'm still trying to really push myself. Because obviously, if anybody new to the channel here tonight, let me do like I guess a little recap or just a summary of my situation here. I basically live in an environment that I really hate. It's extremely unhealthy for me. And once I leave, I'm not gonna look back. I struggle financially quite a bit. I'm very poor. I never had a PC, but I've been streaming for about 3.5 years now. Like 3 years and some odd months. And basically my dream is to become a VTuber and a freelance artist, and have some pretty significant obstacles in my way that I don't really seem to be making any progress in. And, I've struggled for just a long time with my life, and things have been pretty overwhelming, especially this year. It's been a very difficult year, and currently I'm still very stressed out. Oh, my laptop is shutting down. What the fuck? Okay. Either way, basically it's my dream to be a VTuber and a freelance artist. And I've been working on those goals for a little over 3 years now. Both of them, I'm a self-taught artist. I would say I'm like at an amateur level right now. I'm pretty far off from being professional. That is gonna be, a lifelong journey. It's very difficult because I don't have any proper education. I couldn't afford to go to college. I tried to go to college in the spring, but even after financial aid, it was impossible to do that without going into debt. And I can't really, bottom line is I just can't afford college, so I had to drop out of that, which really sucks because the main reason why I wanted to go was to get away from this place. I've been trying to move out my whole life. That was pretty much my last option, and that didn't work out. I was gonna use, college and dorms and benefits and shit to finally move out, but turns out that's not gonna be possible. So, whatever. They say everybody can go to college. I don't think that's true anymore. I mean, I can go on the whole night talking about college alone, so I'm not going to. It's not really in my, deck of cards. It's not an option for me, so it's whatever. I can learn what I want to learn offline anyway, on the internet, and that's what I've been doing. But like I said, I took some time off recently to really rethink things and try to come up with a different approach, because I'm just redlining it and completely burned out and exhausted and frustrated, and and pissed off and just all sorts of shit, just way too stressed out. Trying to figure it all out. So this time around I'm just really trying to lock in. Instead of getting frustrated and letting exhaustion and burnout get the better of me, I'm just gonna push through it anyway. So I've been trying to learn as much as I can. I've been trying to grind as much hours as I can drawing and pushing myself to become a better artist and acquire the knowledge I need to move out, and then eventually, you know, make money as a content creator, as an artist, because that's the career that I've chosen. That is my dream that I want to accomplish. So I've been just trying to dig in. So I needed some time to kind of just shut out everything and just lock in. And I'm in the process of kind of refining that process, I guess you want to call it. Because it's really my only way out, is to just keep grinding harder. And unfortunately, you know, I'm always burned out. I'm always running on red. And I'm always exhausted. Even tonight, I didn't really plan on streaming, but I really wanted to. I just don't have, you know, the energy to really last that long anymore. Because I'm just, you know, I don't get the sleep I need. You know, I hate, like, talking about all of it because it just sounds like excuses to me. But I think it's definitely worth mentioning, you know. I'm not, you know, making excuses as to why my life is difficult and why I can't seem to break out of this rut. But you know, it's definitely worth mentioning. I'm trying my best anyway, despite my circumstances. So obviously I have no idea when I'll be able to get out. Immediately when my parents came home, I am now, you know, permanently exhausted. You know, when they left, I just kind of like shut down and I just needed to sleep. I was just so tired of being around them. And so when they were gone, I just like couldn't stay awake anymore during the day and I just wanted to sleep. I tried to, but you know, my dog would keep barking and waking me up. So I really didn't get any sleep while they were gone. Now they're gone, I still don't get any sleep because, you know, they're up really early and they wake me up, and I'm trying not to let that fucking break me, man. I'm tired of dealing with this place, and I'm tired of having to take days off, and I'm tired of getting completely exhausted because I'm just running on empty every day. So, I don't know what I'll be doing for the night. I'm just gonna be yapping here just to give you guys, you know, catch up a little bit on what's been going on. I'm still under a lot of stress, and even right now I'm trying to find the energy to even talk. I have been making some, I don't know why my laptop is shutting down. It's never done that on stream. It's concerning. So I've changed my drawing focus a little bit here, and I am instead working on developing the portrait of my character and how I want it to look. And it's gonna take a longer than I thought. It's not easy by any means. So I'm trying to come up with a drawing that I can use for my profile picture on Twitter and Twitch. And a banner, perhaps. I'll have to look at what banners people use and use it on my own. I know, like, I don't know why people put their links in their banners. I don't know. I don't think it's really necessary, because I already have the links, like, on my Twitter profile. Like, if you just look right under my name, there's all my links. So why would I have it, like, twice? Like, people know where to find links anyway. You don't need to shove it in their face. It's like telling people to like, comment, and subscribe on your video. You don't have to keep reminding them that. Anyways, just a little nitpick. Because I still get freaking offers on the daily of people trying to get me to pay them for work, when I really can't afford it in the first place, and I just don't trust random people. So, obviously, there's been a handful of things happening on the internet. I kind of somewhat keep up while I'm drawing. I throw a video on, listen to it while I'm drawing and shit. But recently, like I said, I've been working on specifically like color studies, and I'm still doing character design here with my character. Oh, I gotta sneeze. Oh, and it went away. Fuck. God. So, I feel like I'm getting a little bit closer, but it's still like just off. I don't know what it is that I'm struggling with here, but like I said, I've been trying to develop a profile picture, so that means I'm trying to come up with what my character is really going to look like, at least the portrait. And obviously I'm making a Yaogwai, Oni, yokai character, whatever you want to call it. It's like an Eastern style demon character that's supposed to represent me. It's been going well. I have the overall majority of what I want the face to look like, but there are still like a few things that I'm tweaking and coming up with. Mainly the horns are a big part. I don't know if I really like the horns or not. I do kind of finally get the color scheme down, because you know, I recently got back into studying colors and figuring out what colors I want to use. I know my main colors are going to be black and red, but you know, the problem with black is that you can't have too much black, because my hair is black and my horns are black, and it kind of can make it hard to see my horns, because if they're the same color they don't really stand out from each other. Just, you know, minor things like that, but I've been specifically trying to come up with something that resembles more of an Oni, because what I drew looks more like a Western style demon, which isn't bad. It looks pretty good. I like the way it came out, but I want to have like certain symbols to make me, you know, to recognize that I'm a Yaogwai, or at least got you know, certain aesthetics about me that are recognizable in that way. So I have been kind of playing around with a few different horn designs still. I don't know why that part is kind of difficult. Because the like standard horn for Oni is like something I want to have a little bit different. It's usually, you know, the long, pointy, thin horns. And I kind of want, you know, I want that, but in a unique way. So I'm literally like trying to come up with my own design on the spot. So easier said than done. So that's been going. I'm trying to make progress there so that I can have a new updated profile picture. Obviously, I'm having no luck financially, which, you know, I can't move without money. And at this point, I'm putting everything I got into content creation and being an artist because that's what I want to do. So I've decided to just say fucking go all in because nothing else is working. So I'm trying to build up my skills enough to regularly make pretty high quality art. I know in general like what kind of work that I want to do, but along the lines I'll have to get more specific. But like I said, right now I am just focused on my character and that character alone. I'll probably be drawing it quite a bunch more in a bunch of different angles, doing different expressions. I should definitely start doing that. But I kind of want to just get the profile picture done and out of the way. Ended up making like my skin like a really pale blue. And it looks really nice. I wanted kind of like a pale gray skin with black hair with red highlights. And then black horns with a red tip. Or red horns, but I do like just the black horns. The red horns do work. I also kind of want to do a drawing where I do the you know, the standard like Oni colors with red skin and red horns and the white hair. I just don't really like white hair. At least on me. I don't mind white hair, but it just doesn't really match me. Who knows, it might be able to do a drawing. But, you know, coloring with colored pencils takes a while because you gotta slowly build up the layers, and I'm still like learning what colors I want to be using. Almost there. But I'm not gonna share any designs just yet. I think I will shortly. But, you know, like I said, my main focus right now is getting to a point where I can draw up my profile picture to make me look a little bit more official. So it's like, hey, you know, finally like actually put a character out there. And by the end of the year I do want to have like, you know, a full drawing with an outfit and a background and fully rendered and whatnot. So at least I can have that done and ready to go by the end of the year. I still have quite a lot to learn. Which leads me down, you know, since I'm still like pretty much a beginner artist, I've only been drawing for like 3.5 years. And this year I only started to do, you know, dip my toes into character design. and start drawing up a character for myself. You know, there's a lot to learn. I still don't really have much in my visual library, so there's like a lot of things that I'm drawing for the very first time. And obviously it's not gonna look the best after your first drawing. You know, 100 drawings later, maybe, yeah. But obviously I'm just really struggling to get things done because of the environment I live in. I really want to get myself into shape. I don't know why. This year alone has been extremely difficult, and I just for some reason cannot get into shape because I'm just so tired I can't even keep my eyes open. Because I've reached a point where my insomnia is just brutalizing me. And like I said, I live with people who disrespect my sleep, and they don't let me get the sleep I need. There's nothing I can do to change that. I've got no choice but to push through it. So instead of letting the frustration get to me, I'm just locking in. Either way, obviously there's been a number of things happening on the internet that I'll get to here in a little bit. I don't really have anything else planned. That's pretty much it for what's been going on in my life. I've been dealing with a lot on my plate, and I'm just quite overwhelmed, to be frank, and I'm tired of just having nothing but bad news to say. You know, nobody wants to hear that, you know. But I like to share what I'm going through anyway, because, you know, I don't want to be alone in this, and I want to show people that I'm not afraid to talk about it. I also don't want it to feel like I'm using it as an excuse, because, you know, everybody's got their own circumstances and their own obstacles that they've overcome. And a lot of people like to make it their personality to, I don't know, their trauma, their personality, whatever you want to call it. But that's not me. I'm just going through a hard time, that's all. And I don't really have anybody in my personal life to talk to it about. You know, I don't really have friends, IRL. I got like one friend that I talk to who is an online friend, and that's about it. So it's kind of like therapy for me to talk about it online. So, you know, I see it as a way of getting things off my chest more than anything. And, you know, I like to talk about it because, you know, I want to eventually find people that would like to support me emotionally, of course. So, let me think. Yeah, I'm not gonna be streaming for too much longer. I already feel like I'm losing my voice. Because, you know, I have to be quiet now. And I'm already like a quiet person, and I hate having to like strain my voice to try to not, you know, disturb anybody when I'm talking. So, I think that's about it for what's been going on. I don't really have anything else planned for the night. I didn't really want to stream tonight, because I haven't even really been in the gaming mood. I haven't played anything in like a week. I'm just not really... You know, I don't have the money for new games, so... There's nothing to really feel like playing anymore. I did see a video on this like yesterday while I was drawing. Asmongold was reacting to a video about how games are kind of dying. And we're in kind of like a gaming recession, you want to call it. And I think it's true, because basically the main reasons the guy in the video was stating was that, you know, we live in a day... You know, we live in an age where there's a lot of slop. There's a lot of shitty games out there. And most people play like the same 3 games over and over, and they rarely like go to anything else. And, you know, he pulled up like statistics to see what games are being played the most. You know, like COD and shit like that. And since those games are so big, they pull consumers away from other games that people can be playing. You know, it's kind of like how content creation works, or even how money works, if you want to think about it that way. There's always like this very small minority that has all the like that has like all the viewers and content creation. There's always like very rich people who have all the money. There's always like just a couple platforms, streaming platforms that have all the viewers. There's always these certain shows that have all the viewers. You know, there's always like that sort of dynamic going on where this is small minority that's kind of hogging it all for themselves. And, you know, it could be just, you know, there's no really exact reason why, but that's just how, you know, systems are made. But, you know, one of the things that the guy was talking about was video games. And you know, he was saying basically this is resulting in people either spending less time playing video games, or when they do play, it's just like the same games over and over. Like, you can take single player games for example. You know, like back in the day there was like banger after banger after banger. Every year there was just an unending steam train of just badass game after badass game. Like the 360 golden era, I think, was like... It was like a high schooler that peaked too early in life. You know what I'm talking about? Like the dude peaked in high school. And, you know, it's all been downhill ever since. And, you know, part of the reason is, again, like, companies have changed. And their audiences have changed. Kids nowadays statistically play more mobile games than they do console or PC. Like, there's like an overwhelming majority of, you know, like kids, I mean. Not like young adults and up, but people that are like still in school, like high school and shit. They play more mobile games for 2 reasons. Mobile games are more excessive. They're more accessible and they're less expensive. You know, that's another reason why gaming has been kind of on a downfall, is because shit is just getting more expensive. You know, and the qualities of games are just not reflecting it. You know, the consoles are, you know, PC gaming alone is like a major contributor to that. You know, since upgrades are left and right. You know, they're always trying to keep PCs optimized. And it seems like every game that comes out nowadays is just poorly optimized. And the market just keeps getting more expensive and more expensive. And PCs becoming more unaffordable. So less people are playing them. And I'm one of them, you know. I've never been able to afford a PC. And ever since I was like 11 or 12, I've always wanted one. But the price just keeps going up and up and up. And the strength of the PC that I need to get keeps increasing. Well, my income doesn't, you know, it can't keep up. That's why I've never been able to afford a PC in the first place. So, you know, this is especially true in like poor countries where, you know, mobile gaming is becoming a lot more popular simply because, you know, PCs and consoles are through the roof right now and pretty much borderline unaffordable in the places that they live. It's another contributor. But also, like I said, just the quality of games in general. You can say that for like the entire world we live in. Like straight up. I always keep up with that kind of stuff. I always occasionally will see a video on what's been going on in the economy nowadays, and it's reached a point. You know, I saw a video on this thing called like the happiness index, and it was taken, I think, right before COVID. But basically now there was a graph called the happiness index, and they take the graph and they take a survey pretty much through the entire world, and it just is a graph that shows age and level of happiness, and it used to be consistent with you know, the graph used to be consistent until like right around COVID, and then after that it has completely changed. And what it used to be before was that the younger you are, the happier you are. The older you are, the happier you are. It was always like the middle-aged people were the most miserable. Like people in the 30s and 40s. It would dip to its lowest in the 30s and 40s. And then it would dip back up after like 45. And then like in the later years in life, they would be happy again. And now it has pretty much flatlined until about 60s, 65, and then it goes back up. It starts off like pretty much dead bottom. And so that basically means people are miserable pretty much until like their 60s. That directly correlates to the global economy. They found that that was the #1 factor. You know, things are just straight up more expensive. People are working harder than they have ever been in human history, and they're getting paid. They're earning, or the value of their money is the lowest it's ever been in human history. So, happiness is also lowest it's been as well. Which is, you know, concerning, obviously, but it also points, I think, you know, if you look at it in the right way, it shows what needs to be fixed and what needs to be done, instead of like saying that it's hopeless and that it's all doom and gloom. I think instead, seeing statistics like that shows you what needs to be done. Obviously, the global economy needs to be addressed, and there isn't really much going on about that. You know, I don't really hear a lot of talk about solutions. Instead, everybody's kind of left to figure it out for themselves, which is fine. In a way, people are naturally leaning towards that. I believe people are naturally adaptable. Like, you know, if you move to a new environment, you're like naturally going to get used to that place. And I think, you know, when you're going through a financial hardship like we are today, like Gen Z, I think we, even though we are kind of hopeless in as a whole, and happiness has been pretty down, we're also naturally adapting to the way things are, for the better or for the worse. It just kind of naturally happens. But like I said, this isn't even just like an issue in America, but you know, they found that this directly correlates to the economic strain that the entire world is under, even in the richest countries and countries that are in debt. It's showing that like pretty much everybody across the board, especially young people who, you know, people who are in their 20s and 30s are struggling the most, like quite significantly. And you can even you can mathematically explain this too, because when you're in your 60s, which is when the graph goes back up, that's usually when your 401k kicks in. That's when your retirement kicks in. That's like retirement age. So yeah, no wonder the graph goes up around that time. You know, that's like a mathematical explanation for that. Because that's usually when, you know, things pay off. And it's been, you know, that's kind of a sad thing too. Is like, even though the graph doesn't go back up until you're 65, it's always been consistent though. And like I said, that's right around the age when retirement kicks in and people, you know, retire. That's when they're 401k. But it shouldn't even be like that in the first place. So maybe this is a good thing that things are changing. Because like I said, most people, you know, they live a life where they work a job and they save money and they put that money away into a retirement fund. And then after decades of saving and putting your money into that retirement fund, usually that's like when you're in your 60s, you can finally retire and then live off of the money you put into your retirement fund. And I think that's fucking lame. I think that's fucking stupid. It's just like slavery. It just takes, you know, it takes your youth away. The book I read is very much like against all of that. It like convinces you that, you know, he like really wants to drive that point across that that system is just it's just modern slavery. He calls it the slow lane. There's like the sidewalk, the slow lane, and the fast lane. Basically, like the sidewalk is people who are like, they're like living under somebody, or they're living off of welfare. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They're, you know, they're living in the moment. They can't plan for the future. They're very spontaneous with their money. Even though you can be rich, you can be poor. You know, it's people with like zero money management skills. As soon as they get money, they spend it, or they're living in so much debt because, you know, they have to have something, so they I don't know, do a really shitty car loan because they want that car, and then they're stuck paying off that car loan. It's just, you know, people with very little financial education and little financial discipline, so they're always living paycheck to paycheck and blaming it on the system, and they're living off of benefits that they've claimed. They're either, you know, living off of unemployment or something, barely scraping by, and pretty much blaming everything but themselves. And the slow lane is like pretty much what everybody's doing, where you work a job and you save money, but you put that into a retirement fund and you invest, and then after dedicating so many years of working and saving money, eventually you reach a point decades later where you can retire, take that money and go live your life. That's the slow lane. Like I said, it does work, but by the time you're actually able to enjoy your wealth, it is like way too late. So that's like just an illusion. You know, you're just spending time to make money instead of the other way around. And then, you know, and then he preaches his fast lane method, which obviously you're not always gonna get rich fast, but it's basically like where you become very educated financially, and you take steps to increase your wealth in a number of ways. Like you recognize that, you know, the slow lane is gonna pay off way too late. So, you know, you gotta like really educate yourself and see how you can make money, like passively. If you can like make a business or product, sell that, and kind of like stuff like that. Like what he did was he built a website that sold limo services in the late 90s. He like moved with like $900 across the country, and then dedicated everything he knew, because he already spent like, he went to college for finance and stuff, in business, and he was still working dead end job to dead end job. And you know, he always wanted to be wealthy and be financially free from a young age. So he already spent like a good number of years trying to educate himself and get closer to that goal. But one day he eventually dropped everything and moved, and used his knowledge of driving limos for a good number of years to open his own website and sell a service online. And like I said, it was in the early 90s, so he started off like with basically no money and no income, and used his skills and, you know, educated himself every day to build this website and create a service where he sold like limo services. And then eventually he started off building websites, which allowed him the money to like pay for his rent and stuff. And then like I said, he just, you know, went off and pursued his own like business model. He used all the knowledge he acquired, and, you know, went to the local library to put everything he can into trying to get away from working a 9 to 5. It's basically what I'm saying here. And make money on his own, you know, either making his own business and whatnot. And that's kind of the world we are living in nowadays, where that's the one thing that's starting to work out the best. Because, you know, the 9 to 5 is dying, and what that's leading people to do is figuring out how to make money on their own instead of being an employer or an employee. And that's the kind of world. I'm not saying like everybody's gonna be able to do that, but it's the world that we're leading towards. A more like independent, and for better or for worse, that might be better for the economy and whatnot, but that's just like the natural path that we are all being led towards. But like I said, he ended up He made websites for a little while, but you know, that took like way too much time. And eventually he built his own website and a limo service, and then he ended up making money off of that. It was slow at first, but it built up very quickly, and then before long, you know, he was making well over his, you know, the money that he needed to live, and was actually saving like real money. And you know, he built up his online service, his website, and he ended up buying the official name like limos.com, where then he started selling services all across the United States, because you know, he was using the internet, so pretty much anybody with access to a computer, if they find his website, they can use it. They can like pay for it and find a taxi or a limo in their area and blah blah blah. And that's how he ended up making money, by creating that business, even though he had no interest in the transportation industry. It was his passion for becoming financially independent is what drove him, because he was doing like fucking like 16 hours a day, just non-stop, waking up, going to bed, developing his website and his business until like he reached a point like where he was making so much money that he didn't even have to do anything. You know, he can take a month off and the money was still rolling in. He's making like hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, because you know, eventually you get to the point where the business was self-automated and he didn't really have to do anything. He eventually sold his business, and then the people who owned it tanked his business, and he bought it back and then brought it back to life, and then I think he sold it again, I'm not sure. But basically, like, you know, he got to a point where he was able to sell the business and it became, you know, like a money tree. Obviously it wasn't easy, but he was always like motivated by his passion for financial independence. And you know, he ended up moving to do all that in the first place. And you know, he had his own company, so he had his own employers, and obviously he learned a lot from having the wrong people in his business and the right people run his business and whatnot. But it's all just it's interesting to read, because he tries to keep the information he learned up to date, and to show people that, you know, the knowledge still applies to the world nowadays, even though the economy is always changing and inflation is as high as it can get, pretty much. And you know, the strategies that he used can still work. And I'm kind of like in the middle of doing my second time reading the book. But that is like another passion of mine. I've been poor my entire life. And even from a young age, I just was really annoyed by it. And I've reached a point where I'm in, like, I'm fully locked in just trying to make it. And I decided, for better or for worse, to be a fucking content creator and an artist. And it has never been harder to be one or the other, and it's never been easier at the same time. It's kind of like a mixed bag. It's just, you know, it's a very oversaturated market. But there are pros and cons to oversaturated markets. I think one of the more obvious one is, like, obviously the higher the quantity, the lower the quality. So even though there's a shit ton of artists and a shit ton of content creators out there, that makes the majority of content um, like low tier amateur. And I even heard somebody say this the other day that like even Tectone was talking about this because he has to hire artists occasionally and um for his channel and do artwork and shit. And he's like, what, most artists I work with are just absolute dog shit at what they do. And I'm like, you know what, that gives me hope. Like instead of like feeling discouraged by that, I know for a fact like it's not that hard to be better than most people. Um but they were just bad at like simple business practices. Like they were just straight up lazy and just poorly communicating and like wouldn't really get the work done that much. And even the artwork itself isn't even really that good. But, compared to the top artists that I see or very successful artists out there, they're getting it. Like, they're fucking busting ass. It's amazing, they're pumping out amazing artwork, like left to right. I'm not saying like that's what I have to do, but I'm seeing, the difference. I'm seeing what they do right versus what I hear that people do wrong. And I already can tell that I'm on the right path in that regard. But like I was saying, an increase in quality or increase in quantity decreases overall quality, since there's a lot of people in the content creator sphere as well. I think that lowers the average quality of content that people make. There's a lot of slop out there. I think this is kind of like what happened with the economy just general. Like video games as well. Video games, like take COD for example. COD has produced like 27 main titles. 28, 27. So they've been, I think it's like 29 actually. How many? Somewhere around there. They made a game every year since in like 1997. That's fucking insane. That just means like there's no way. Like take a game that was made in a year versus a game that was made in like 7 years. The quality is gonna be vastly different. Like games have kind of become oversaturated that way. People are trying to pump games out as cheaply and fastly as possible, and that is resulting in poor quality of games, which results in poor player retention, which results in the game dying, which results in people playing games less, which results in the entire industry suffering financially from it all. So, like I said, Asmongold was talking about how, you don't see bangers that often anymore. Back when he was, in his prime or whatever, back when he was playing WoW and streaming WoW normally, like every day, on the 360, you had games like Halo, the old school COD, you had fucking like Metal Gear, Tony Hawk, fucking whatever Nintendo game was out at the time. It was just banger after banger, fucking BioShock. There was just so many good games to choose from, and now it's like, you either get Claire Obscura Expedition 33 or you get fucking Golem. There's like no in between. You just get this absolute shit game that is made like for duct tape, like that fucking Kong game, or you get like Expedition 33 or Baldur's Gate. And that's like just a handful of times a year. Like I said, like the overall quality of games have gone down. And you can even look at the big titles nowadays. And like I said, that leads to people just playing the same games over and over. Because also games have gotten complicated. They require a lot of storage as well. You know, it takes time if you want to play like a brand new game that you don't know anything about. It takes time and effort to learn that. And people are so fucking tired and burned out nowadays that, you know, they go to play games to relax. And, you know, they play their comfort game. They don't want to like stress themselves out trying to learn something new after busting ass on your 12-hour shift at your shitty retail job. So, you know, you don't want to like hop into a fucking new game and stress yourself out trying to figure out its fucking complex mechanics. Or hop into COD and just get your ass obliterated by unemployed sweats at like 6 p.m. and just go and get obliterated 12 games in a row and then go to bed. And then wake up and go to your shitty job and then go back home and just get obliterated again. Just the Ouroboros of obliteration. But yeah, that's the kind of world we're living in. There's been like a very slow and gradual, I think, increase in the quality of games. Like, it's slowly coming back, but it's very slow. Like games kind of fell dead for pretty much up until like 2 years ago for me. And now they're kind of like coming out with at least a few bangers a year. So it's like they're slowly coming back. You know, you do have companies out there that still recognize that, you know, if you make a good game, people are going to play it. Like, another point he brought was like specifically single player games. You know, single player games have dropped in quality very significantly. You can look at all the Assassin's Creed games. You know, there used to be a big single player game back in the day. And you know, every game that kept coming out, it was just worse than the last. The stories just kept getting shittier and shittier. It kept getting like more forspoken dialogue. Just simple slop games and shit. Like that fucking Star Wars game, whatever it was. That came out, I think, last year. I don't remember what it was. It was like a really shitty single player game. It was just like Ubisoft slop. But you know, you get those and then you get a game like Expedition 33 that shows, you know, if you make a good game, people will play it. Skyrim is a good example. Oh yeah, he was talking about the change that companies are making nowadays. And that change is that they're leaning towards player consumer created content. So like custom games or custom maps or even like mod support and stuff like that. Which used to be pretty big back in the day. Like Skyrim, for example, is a good example of a single player game that is still played because there are just so many mods that, you know, it keeps you, you know, you're playing a different version of the game like all the time. There's always like something new being added that changes the game completely. Like how there used to be channels solely dedicated to mods that came out for Skyrim. Because it was just that big. I've always wanted to get into modding just to see what I can do and learn. It seems like it could be like a useful skill set to have. Like, I'm just curious as to what I can use those skills for. Modded Minecraft is a big example. I think that was like, Gary's mod and shit. So that's kind of starting to come back, that kind of stuff. And that's gonna be pretty good for the industry. I've been wanting to get into building here, but I'm just dedicating everything I have into what's going on in my life right now. Get there eventually, I suppose. But yeah, personally, I've been pretty burned out. I've felt that kind of like gaming fatigue for a while. It's kind of like the older I get, the more I lean into games that I just kind of want to relax and enjoy and feel like that is something that's not like wasting my time. Like I've gotten away from like PvP games, I've gotten away from like competitive games and leaning towards stuff like this. Is there a frog in here? Dude, I think I made this home like a year ago. When did I make this build? This was like a while ago. It's not bad. It's very detailed on the inside. Cozy, even. I don't think I have a date, do I? May 2024? Oh, fuck. Holy shit, it's been that long. God damn. Anyways. That's kind of depressing. So yeah, I've been hitting the books, hitting the drawings pretty much as hard as I can. I'm still very burned out. I'm still trying to figure things out. I just wish I had support, like emotionally and shit. Cause I'm very much on my own here, and it's difficult. Even like right now, I'm just like exhausted and barely have the energy to talk. But really got no choice. It's been very difficult for me, and it's not getting any easier. But I'm just gonna dig in harder. The harder things get, the more locked in I get. So. I'm trying to think of what else I wanted to talk about. Not much else. I think I'm gonna wrap it up here for the night. I may or may not be streaming tomorrow. I would really like to, but like I said, I'm running beyond empty right now, and I've been really struggling to find the energy to even stream. So I'll do what I can. I am running at my limit. Just bear with me, I suppose. All I can do is hope that my luck turns around sometime soon. There's Gerald. I haven't seen him in a while. So I'm gonna end it here for the night. I may or may not see you tomorrow. Like I said, would like to stream, but I've been really struggling to find the energy to really push myself. But I know I really need to. Maybe it'll be better for my health. Who knows? I'm also, at a point where like I've run out of games I even want to play. All I've got is Minecraft at this point. I'll see if HoloLive is on Game Pass. I know the DLC is coming out here soon. Silk Song was announced, and it's coming out soon, so everybody's playing Hollow Knight to finish it before the DLC comes out. I don't have any money for the DLC, so I'll probably not play the game anyway. Only if it's on Game Pass, but I'm gonna be honest, I'm not really into Metroidvanias. I'm not. I gave Nine Souls a shot, but I just got bored, I'm gonna be honest. And just kind of lost interest in it. The story I didn't really care that much about. And I just got bored very quickly. And dropped it. I feel bad because a lot of people really praise that game, but I'm just not really into Metroidvanias. I don't know why, I find them more fun to watch than to actually play. So, I'll probably be playing mostly just Minecraft from here on out. And the occasional indie game that I can find. Would like to find things to mix things up, but like I said, I don't have the money for anything. I can't just go and buy a game and play it. So, I'm doing what I can to bring myself closer to being able to afford things. That's pretty much top priority right now. So, thank you for watching. I could really use the support. Just, I'm not asking for money or anything, I'm just, asking, I guess, cheer me on or whatever. Let me know that, if you want to. I have a Twitter. You can find me on there. I usually update with what's been going on. And I share some of my drawing progress on there as well. Otherwise I would show it on here if I could. I'm just doing everything I can. I'm exhausted. And I would appreciate, even the smallest little thing, Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.